Welcome, 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 welcome. This is Miss J, live at the Sugar Shack on BigExposerRadio.com. It is Friday, June the 27th, 2014, 5 p.m. We are on Be Exposed Radio Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. I'm your girl, Miss J. Miss Versatile is out. Today is her birthday, so she'll be back on Monday. But we have in the building right now
Romeo,
our intern Roman, and behind the scenes, Mr. Monty is in the background doing his thing. Today is Friday, thank goodness. TGIF is not the word. So happy that it's Friday. What about you?
I am. I'm going to New York tonight.
Okay. Right after?
Actually, before.
Okay. Well, we have a great show lined up. Our first topic, I'm going to run down our topics and then our special guests. So our first topic of today, bad boys. Why do women or men like bad boys? Then we have a special guest calling in, Dr. Beth Generous, author, and her book is Turning Me to We, The Art of Partnering with Mindfulness. Very good. Then we might have another special guest. I gotta wait to find out. So just be patient with me on that. And we, of course, have our community news. Of course. And I definitely want to talk about, that's been on my mind pretty much all day. I'm not sure about how I should bring it up, but you know the conversation that we had probably like the other day. I wanted to revisit that. We didn't really completely touch on it, but we just kind of hinted it. Women who support men financially.
Okay.
And our last question would be, what is the age range that you date? So we have a hot show lined up for our Friday at the Sugar Shack. So we're going to get into this first topic. Why do men or women like bad boys? Monty, you want to chime in? He's doing his thing. I personally, I like good guys.
Really?
And I like bad boys also. But I had my bad boy stage. You know, I think every woman goes through that bad boy stage. Everybody wants you're right, the rebellious, you know, my family don't like them.
But I love him.
And no matter what, I know he's no good for me, but
He's good for me.
He's good for me, but he's not good for you.
Right.
Because he's bad with you and everybody else. What was that?
It's the whole, I see him in a different light. He's not the guy that you think he is. And yeah.
Exactly. And knowing the fact that the typical bad boy, we all know, is cocky, which is a sex appeal, arrogant, which is a sex appeal, puts himself first, selfishness, not a good look.
Swag.
How's the word? What's the word I'm looking for? He perpetrates that he is attentive to the woman's needs in the beginning. So that is the enticing part of luring the woman in. Because what the last person did, I can do better.
Right, that's the fish hook.
Exactly. And he acts like a loose cannon, so he can spaz out. Some people think that's a little sexy, which is not. You don't want somebody spazzing out on you in the middle of the street somewhere in public. Because if he'll do it in public, he'll do it behind closed
It's
doors.
kind of embarrassing.
Struts his masculine sexuality. So basically, I know I'm the, and can't nobody do it better. Isn't evenly the remote guy that he pretends. Thank you, Monty. He pretends to be this nice guy, but underneath he's the devil in disguise. Number 1, uses women for sex. So, with that being said, you can ask any woman what she typically likes about a bad boy. And a lot of women will answer that they never know what to expect from a bad boy. That they find them as a challenge versus a coon.
Right. I.e. good boy.
Yes. So most women don't want a coon, but they do because nice guys finish last. But then the nice guy, they really do finish last because the bad boy is stepping over her and stepping over the coon.
Bullying him.
Yes. So that's drama in itself. They're never boring. Most bad boys are not boring. They bring a little intrigue to the relationship.
There's always an adventure with them.
It's always an adventure.
Always, whether being chased by the police or fighting, it's always some type of
It's always something.
sitcom adventure with them.
Exactly. They're strong, aggressive, independent, self-assured, once again, cocky. And women feel safe around them. So basically, if they're in the street and something's getting ready to pop off, they know Mr. Man over here, well, they think Mr. Man over here is going to protect them both.
You about to be my hood boy, wife beater in jeans.
Exactly. So some women might think that she can fix the bad boy. Most people cannot fix the bad boy. The bad boy has to fix themselves.
Yeah, you can't fix a bad boy. Once he's set in that mind, once he's in that mindset, like, if you can get him out, like, kudos to you. But if you can't, expect it already. It's not
Exactly.
going to happen. He's stuck in his ways.
The love and sex is stronger, more intense emotionally for her versus him. Because he's more about
Getting his.
And looking in the mirror, looking how sexy he is. Because it's about him. It's not about the combined bodies,
Intertwining.
the intertwining, the heat, the sexuality that's going. It's not about that. It's about him getting his, busting his, what he needs to bust off, getting up, and I'm out.
All right. For some.
For some may stick around to eat and then leave.
Some might actually stick around for you to get yours.
It's very few, probably. Very few.
There's a few bad boys out there with hearts. A few.
Well, I would love to hear from them. They can give us a call at 1-855-835-5857, extension 1, or they can text us at 443-642-9403. We'd love to hear from the good guys that are not coons, and let's hear from the bad boys, because everybody know a bad boy. Whether it's a friend, family, or foe, they're in it for what they're in it for. And they usually got a big X. Don't go there. Don't go there with him. You can't change them.
And that bit X to us becomes a green light. That red light is a green light.
It is. Because I'm going to go for it because I know I can do better and change him. No, you can't. The nice guy is like taking the Amtrak, where the bad boy is like a roller coaster. The adventure, the high, the low, the in-between, the going around the curves. It's an adventure.
The loops.
The loops, exactly. Nice guys can be manipulative. Yes, they can. But they're always nice to you. The big X is do not enter, because the bad boy intention is you're not gonna change me. I'm gonna do more damage to you than you can do to me. That's what that big X is for, and it's flashing. Like, do not enter. Do not enter. You've been warned. So if you want, you get ready to find out the hard way, because the flashing light told you don't come in here. You're not ready for this.
I want to rephrase something from earlier. I think every bad boy has the potential to change. It depends on his girl. Like, every bad boy can tell which girl wants to change him, and he can also tell who's his initial ride or die that will be there for him no matter what.
Mm-hmm. You can. But it's easy to get others to be nice back to the good guy and the bad boy. But who's going to be more accepted to you being nice to them? The good guy. The bad boy could care less.
There's some bad boys out there with good boy qualities.
Once again, I would love to hear from them to explain what their good qualities is, because I'm not bashing any. I know a lot of bad boys, and I know a lot of good guys. So, I've seen both, and I've seen both in action. And there's no challenge in the nice guy with a woman. They don't see that as a challenge. They see it as, oh, he's so nice. Chivalry is dead. He's not dead. He opens the door for me. He speaks very nice to me. Where, he's very gentle in the bedroom, where a bad boy is about stringing you up, choking you out. You're so silly.
You can tell he makes me
Oh, you're so silly.
I'm not ideally a good boy.
Well, the thing is, you cannot reform a bad boy. Once again, the bad boy, no matter how old he starts that journey in becoming a bad boy,
he goes down that path.
He's going down that path, and it's going to be up to him with the changes in his life that he's gone through, and as many people as he's hurt, in the road that he's taking, in the droplets that he's left of his trail of being a bad boy, that he has to change that behavior. No woman is going to want it. No woman can change a man. A man has to want to change himself.
Right.
So a woman could talk all day about what they're going to do, the plans, you're the one for me, all that. It sounds good, and it looks good on paper. But that bad boy is the one that's going to say, nope, you're not for me. Nope, I don't want to do this. Nope, I don't want to change. Nope, I can't change. So what is a woman to do in that? So is it more special for a guy to treat most of the women he meets like jerks, or treats them nicely?
Repeat that.
Is it more special for a guy to treat most of the women like jerks, or nicely?
I would say nice. Every female deserves a nice chance.
That's right. I definitely agree to that. The thing about, what's the word I'm looking for? It should be a list of what a bad boy doesn't like from a female. One, they don't want to be close. They don't want attachments. So they don't want someone that's clingy to them. They don't want hobbies or life-changing events, going to family functions. If you're crafting, they don't want to do your hobbies that you like, where on a weekend you do something by yourself, and hey, you have your new bad boy. Hey, do you want to do this? No, the bad boy, he has other intentions. It's about how he's going to bed you down by the end of the day. And moving on to the next piece of booty.
Right, I can't find nothing online.
So, they come on, females who come on too strong. They don't like that. They like more of a passive-aggressive female. Or a passive-aggressive male.
I can see that.
Either, like I said, we're speaking for male and female. They want someone to be submissive. Very submissive. Let me take control of you. Let me tell you what to do.
Yeah.
Versus
I agree.
the woman telling him what she wants. Because if they're in that session, she's thinking she's going to take control, and he's like, oh no, that's not going to work. You're going to do this. So that can cause a problem also. Set in their ways. A female can't be set in her own ways with a bad boy. Because once again, the bad boy feels as though he's running the show. A pushover. A pushover.
That's the one right there.
Then that's really the number one, being a pushover. And what their goal is about partying, bullshitting, partying, and bullshitting.
That Big E lifestyle.
Exactly. Okay. Who was that? Is that a bad boy kissing a girl? What is that? Ladies and gentlemen, I'm just looking at a picture that just popped up on my screen. Okay.
He's gonna get blocked. That's my ex-bad girl.
Okay. Well, everybody gotta have a bad boy or a bad girl. You gotta have a ride or die, whether it's male or female. I believe that. But like I said, the bad boy, that's different. But you always gotta have a ride or die that's going to be with you.
Yeah, that was my ride or die.
To the end.
Shout out to her.
What's her name? Don't just say shout out to
Amber.
her.
Can't wait till she come home.
Okay. With a bad boy, a woman has to do what? What do you think a woman has to show to be in his presence? Any idea? You were killing me.
They trying to
with
take
this
me
mic.
out the game.
You have to show self-confidence. You have to be energetic because you got to keep up with him. Relax and
Well, at least
take
attention.
up space. You have to make eye contact. They don't like when you're looking down, talking to them. They don't like that.
They rustlers.
Project your emotions. You have to project your emotions. You have to be passionate. And mainly you have to respect yourself. So no matter what, that's the main thing. You have to respect yourself because the bad boy is not going to have so much respect for you.
Not at all.
If you don't respect yourself. Because if he thinks you're a dummy, which is a pushover,
He's gonna treat you like a dummy.
he's going to treat you like a dummy and a pushover. And
Some might take it as far as even letting their homeboys,
yeah,
interact.
and that's a whole nother subject. And if he takes it that far, he definitely doesn't have respect
And
for you.
and if you allow it to go that far.
And if you allow it or even think about accepting the invitation, that bad boy is not for you because he's going to take you down a path you don't want to even go down. They can be exciting and unpredictable.
I'm not looking on that screen no more.
Yeah, don't. So, You have to give your own opinion. You have to have your own opinion anyway. Because if you don't have your own opinion, what is the conversation about?
Right.
When you don't have any
one-sided.
thoughts. You have to have your own thoughts, your own conclusion, and your own middle. So your beginning, your middle, and your end.
Right.
Because you cannot have a decent conversation to even get to the layer of the bad boy, which you're not going to break the layer, but the initial, okay, I might find her a little intriguing, or I might find him a little intriguing. Okay, I like the conversation that we're having. Okay, then you can take it to the next level, which, whatever that could be.
So let me ask you this. When did you first start your bad boy phase?
Probably 20.
And did it last long?
Yeah. It did. Probably like about... Well, I was with a bad boy. So we were together like 8 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Was it a roller coaster like we talked about?
Oh, definitely. I was on so many ups and downs and highs and lows and in betweens. But he's one of my best friends now. So
That's good.
And shout out to Mr. Don Coleon. Yes. He stepped in and helped me raise my kids. And he took the role of their father and everything. But he was a whore. And living through that, no, it wasn't good. Where I used to call him the mayor.
The mayor?
The mayor, yeah.
What?
Oh my God, what is going on the screen?
Marnie, which one is a female? Which one is a female? Mm-hmm. Which one?
Okay.
Yeah.
So, thanks a lot, fellas.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you. So, with that being said, I had a long lesson about bad boys. I've had everything from lies and deceit to cheating to lies, deceit, and cheating to yeah. So, but like I said, we're really good friends now. So,
Shout out to him. Shout out.
Oh yeah, he definitely will, and he has been very apologetic over the years, constantly. So most guys really won't do that unless it's some type of bucket list to check off to everyone they've hurt in their path. So kudos to him. But when you get a little older like I am now, you don't want you've been through that stage. You know what it's about. And it's a bunch of games. See, when you're in your 20s, you can play that game of going back and forth and the screaming matches and you're no good and I'm tired of you and throwing clothes out the door and all that good stuff.
That is my favorite.
So you go through that dysfunctional stage in your life, and it makes you a better person because you know what you're not going to accept from a bad boy. And with that bad boy, with the lies and deceit, you know that, oh, I don't want my heart broken. I don't want to feel like this. Why doesn't he appreciate me? You ask all those questions the time that you're with him. And so we're getting ready to go to break. And we're going to come back. This is Miss J.
This is Romeo.
On Be Exposed Radio at the Sugar Shack.
Did you miss Talk Lately last night? Well, here's a snippet of what you missed. The phone. I'm going to stick with this now. The phone.
The phone, yeah.
Because people play with my emotions when they try to, you know what? He ruined it for everybody that wanted to ever come into the studio and sit down before me and chit-chat. And like I said yesterday, I would give him the opportunity to redeem himself, but it's going to be on here and no other way. You can't come in here no more.
Right.
Excuse my French, but fuck his reality show. That's how I feel. He ain't gonna do too good in the ratings anyway. Oh, did I say that? I must be really bad. Get canceled. MTV always sponsoring flops. Hello?
Oh, it's sponsored by MTV?
I found that out.
I didn't even.
You know they gonna put it on until like 3 o'clock in the morning.
I didn't even.
Like his reality show's gonna bump Jersey Shore. Right. Am I doing this too much? I want him to come back. Maybe I don't. I don't really care. It is what it is, people. I'm just saying. I ain't burn you, you burned me. You caused this upon yourself. I don't talk this for no reason. You just told me, basically, shut up and say whatever the hell you want to. That's what you said to me. But Lester, shut up. He was just like, say whatever you want to. I am. And I'm going to post it on iTunes.
Right.
Syndication. If you missed that, don't worry. We keep the laughs going right here on Baltimore Exposed Radio, Talk Lately Show. Weeknights at 8. Call in 855-TEL-TLS.
Did you know that our shows play all day and all night?
So you could never miss a minute of the informative, funny, and extravagant mayhem that is our station, BeExposedRadio.com.
So be sure to check out our shows like The Talk Lately Show, The Sharon Nixon Show, Let's Talk, and The Ladio Show. You are listening to BeExposedRadio.com, the station with all the hits and The Talk Lately Show weeknights at 7 p.m.
From north, east, south, and west, you're listening to BeExposedRadio.com.
Did you know that our shows play all day and all night?
So you could never miss a minute of the informative, funny, and extravagant mayhem that is our station, BeExposedRadio.com.
So be sure to check out our shows like The Talk Lately Show, The Sharon Nixon Show, Let's Talk, and The Ladio Show.
Skeptical eye, but I apologize.
I have her home number, so
I'm open-minded. I'm so open-minded.
Okay. I'll do that.
I'm open-minded. 3 days ago, I heard he sold everything in it. He and his attorney both are guilty of trying to spread rumors about me being a homophobe. Everything in his court document is a lie except 2 things. 1, that he's gay, and 2, that he's Jonathan Plummer.
Oh.
You know, I'm glad that she's addressing the whole... I'm glad that she's speaking out, though, because I always thought that Terry McMillan was gay-friendly. Why would she be calling him terrible, gay names? And I do find that hard to believe.
She's embarrassed.
Exactly. A woman scorned to do anything. Oh. But so will a gay man scorned. Mm-hmm. And honey, they will do it twice as hard and twice as vicious.
Ow. You ever seen a gay man fight?
Yeah, exactly. Ooh. What? What?
Whip your butt.
Exactly. You might think I'm a woman, honey, because I'm gay.
But I will tear you. I will tear that ass up. Alright. Now how you do it. And I'm out.
Mark that, Trevor. Mark that, Trevor.
Free stuff for you just for listening to this station. Yo, we got your attention? Here's how it works. You click on the Radio Loyalty banner right now and sign up. Then you keep on listening like you already do. But now you earn points. Those points add up, and you can trade them in for cool stuff in the Radio Loyalty store. Earn more points by sharing your station with friends on Facebook and Twitter, answering surveys, and by using the apps in the New Players App Store. Pretty simple. Free stuff just for doing what you already do. Radio Loyalty. Click the banner to join now.
You are now listening to BeExposedRadio.com. Welcome back. It's your girl, Miss J.
And your boy, Romeo.
Live on BeExposedRadio.com at the Sugar Shack, Friday, May 27th. And we are discussing why women love bad boys.
June 27th.
June 27th. And we have a special guest that's getting ready to come on with us.
Hi.
Hi. How are you?
I'm so happy to hear from you.
I know, me too. This is Miss J, and on the line with us is our special guest, Dr. Beth Generous. Welcome.
Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you.
And you're so welcome. Dr. Beth Generous is the author of Turning Me to We, The Art of Partnering with Mindfulness. A very great title, and this will basically partner in what we were just discussing on the first topic. And do you mind giving our listeners a little background on who Miss Beth is?
Sure. So I'm Beth, and the book is called Me to We, The Art of Partnering with Mindfulness. And the thing that it's about is how you can move from a me style of relationship to an I style of relationship into a we style of relationship. Mm-hmm. And I have worked, I think I've worked with couples for over 25 years, and I've worked in groups, doing consultations. So I've really been working with people, families, couples, groups, about how to have better, happier, healthier, empowered relationships. And so that's why I put the book together.
I love it. And how have you found any challenges with the book coming out and doing the preparation for the book?
I did find a lot of challenges. So, writing has been the easiest part because I really had been noticing a lot. So writing about it, I would write in a little first whenever something would really strike me. And so the writing has been very good. But getting it out so that people see it, so that people know about it, that's been more difficult. And also, I noticed that because it is so powerful, sometimes it's hard for people to really get through it. Do you know what I mean? Like they start in and then it touches on parts of themselves, and so it takes them time to move through all of the information that's there.
Mm-hmm. I definitely understand that. So, let's say, what is the age range you would start with someone with the me to we?
Well, I like people to think about this book as a way for them to really be working on themselves, really to look inside and see what is or isn't working. And I have developed the concept of moving from a me style of relationship through an I to a we to really be starting with individuals who are adolescents. Because children, young children, are in me style relationships, and they should be because they are dependent on their parents, they're dependent on their caregivers. But once that you move into an adolescent age group, you're starting to have relationships, then you have to start to see how you see the world, how you think of relationships, sort of your internal map, so that you can really begin to see what drives you in relationships and whether or not you need to take care of that. Like, are you driven by a security or an insecurity driver? How is it that you are acting and being in relationships? So I would say adolescence is the earliest.
Now, with being the adolescent age, and you're going into this with the parents' approval, of course, are they taking back of how you approach the adolescent?
Well, I've noticed when I work with adolescents in my practice, I often will have at least one parent there. I'm often working on the issues the child has, the adolescent has, sort of in context with the relationship with one or both parents, depending on what the difficulties are for the adolescent. And I actually do that with the people I'm working with who are younger, 9, 10, 11, also, so the pre-adolescent. And so, yes, I would be talking about how the child is seeing relationships, where it might come from. I would use that situation with the parent, and not at all in a judgmental way, but to talk about, well, your child is learning this from you, and how can you shift your behavior while I'm also helping the child look at how he or she can shift his or her behavior.
So, with the adolescents that come to you and they might have difficulty with authority or that nature, generally you're starting at adolescent and progressing into the teens and then adulthood. Mm-hmm. I'm assuming that you stay with them that long. So with that, and you're partnering with them, because basically now you're a part of them, because I'm sure you're seeing them a couple of days a week or twice a month or however the therapy session is. What do you think at that age is the most, because we're going to talk about other progressing ages, but at the adolescent age, what do you think is the most heartfelt problem that most teenagers are having?
So that's such a great question. So most teenagers are struggling with how they are seen in their groups, how they see themselves and how they're seen in their groups, right? So self-esteem, how to set boundaries, really feeling secure. The three things that really play into moving from me to we are these three things, these skills. Having empathy, being able to set boundaries, having a sense of yourself, inner security. And so with adolescents, what can happen is that they can either misinterpret the meaning of things from their parents, and so they don't see themselves as positively as they need to, or they can really have had difficult situations. And so our first way in which we, as humans, determine how we want to do relationships is how we're treated. It's the groups that we belong to, how we're treated in our family systems, the belief systems that we sort of are enculturated with. And so as an adolescent, they're dealing with, am I okay? Am I pretty? Should I let this person do this because they say they like me and I want to have a relationship? They're really struggling with how to set boundaries, what creates security and feeling good about themselves. So my work is to help them really figure out who they are. And that's the first part of it, is we're going to partner best with people who match us. So we don't want to be someone we aren't. And it's difficult to see who we are because sometimes we do misinterpret what people say we should do in order to be liked, right? Mm-hmm. And so I try to help them with those set of things in the beginning. And you're right, I have worked with many adolescents through their adolescence into adulthood, and they've come back in their 20s and 30s, on and off, not all the way through, but come back to work on issues. So I do have I have this great ability and history with many, many different people, starting at adolescence or even pre-adolescence and moving through their 30s.
Wow, their 30s.
Yeah.
That's a long time.
Yeah, I really have had a lot of luck with having people come in and out so they can work on things with me and develop further as they're more ready to do so. Which is part of the reason I wanted to put information into the book, because I could see the course of how we develop as humans just having had this experience with so many people.
So being that you say you're working with them from adolescence until their adulthood, so now we're going to move into the teenage So we done adolescent to teen, tween age. So now we're at probably around 15 or so, 15, 16. Is it pretty much the same criteria as the adolescent?
So as we age, from if you think about Erik Erikson's psychosocial stages, as we age, we're moving through different important psychosocial stages about how it is that we determine who we are and what kind of relationships we can have. And so the early stages are about trust and mistrust. You know, am I lovable? Can I depend on someone being there? And then we move into industriousness, how we can create in the world, will we be successful? And then we move into how can we partner. So at 15, 16 is when we're really working with, can I really partner? Now, adolescents really are working on independence and trying to move away from being taken care of by their parents into being able to take care of themselves. So the work of adolescence is really much more of an I style of relationship. Earlier than that, pre-adolescents or young adolescents are still working on me style relationships. They're focused on what they want, how they want to get their needs met. But as an I style of relationship, people do take care of themselves really well, and the idea is that it's harder to connect. So these are individuals who have a harder time give and take. So they might set up exchanges. Well, I'll take care of you, but then you have to do this for me. And the I style of relationship, which is the older adolescent style, into 20s through like 24, 26, is much more like two people walking side by side. It's not interdependent. And so when I'm working with that age group, I talk a lot about how people can develop those independent skills.
Okay, so now we're in, so we did adolescents, teens. Now we're going to go into the real meat and potatoes of 18 to 21. So 18 to 21, what is that stage?
So this is when a person, and it moves into, so some people who have really developed mindfulness, they've really developed a sense of themselves, they have good boundaries, they are able to ask for what they need or want to do with relationships, and also are able to respond to other people's needs. They might be able to start to develop into an interdependent relationship. So you could start as early as 18 to 21. But most people develop it at the middle to late 20s. So that's kind of the work, is how can I listen to what you need, pay attention to what your needs are, understand things from your perspective, and also not lose myself, have my own perspective, and then negotiate what it is that we want to create together.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so now we're past 21. So now we're going into 23 to 28, 30 age range.
Okay. So now here's where people would be moving into the interdependent me style of relationship. And if they're not, then there's something going on for them, some way in which they're blocked to have those kinds of relationships. Mm-hmm. And how that would play out is the maps, this idea that people can get stuck in either a me style or an I style relationship because they have been hurt in some way, injured, someone, as they were moving through their psychosocial developmental stages, something didn't go right. And so now they have become stuck in either a me or an I style relationship. So the me style is more codependent, it's more narcissistic, and the I style is super independent, almost rigid boundaries, and much more competitive. And those two styles can create problems in long-standing relationships.
So do you go, so like you said, you've started from small adult adolescent, teen, adult. So now are you going into over 30?
Well, we can. It seems that pretty much from about 26 to 28 on, they have the same kinds of issues. They just maybe have more experience of being stuck in these patterns, but they have the same kinds of issues. So how I would work with somebody who's, say, 28 or 30 or 35 is very similar to how I might work with somebody who's in their 40s or their 50s. Because the issue is that they've gotten stuck in one of those much earlier stages, and they're being driven by some insecurity drivers. Maybe they can't share their money, or they aren't very good at sharing how they negotiate time in the relationship. Perhaps they're very needy. They have to be in control. There are very different things that come into play. But pretty much from that age on, about 26 to 28 on, we're going to work on those issues about the same.
So, with your book, Turning Me to We, The Art of Partnering with Mindfulness, what do you mean by turning me to we?
So when I'm working with that, the title, Turning Me to We, I was really focused on this idea that we're moving through being focused just on ourselves in terms of a relation. When we're in a relationship, if we're only focused on ourselves, then we're going to be somewhat narcissistic and needy and dependent, moving through an I-style relationship, which is more of that independent style that we talked about for adolescence and early 20s, to a we-style relationship, which is the kind of relationship that we want to be living in when we are, in our late 20s, middle 20s onward. And it is a relationship that allows for each partner to have their needs met, there to be a couple, and they have an interdependency. So it's well-bounded, there's empathy, and there's a sense of inner security. So that's really what I was referencing with that title.
So what is the mindfulness, and how does it assist in creating successful relationships with you and your clients?
Yeah, so with mindfulness, you're really looking at those paradigms that we were talking about earlier. And when we come into a relationship, we all have sort of a picture about what relationship is supposed to look like, and that's our paradigm. And when there's a disconnect, a miscommunication, then the mindfulness helps us see what's going on. You can use a way of getting yourself into the situation and say, I need to pay attention to what that person's saying. And mindfulness is the idea of being present in the now and really trying to see another person's point of view without losing your own sense of self.
So do you find that doing this session with your clients, are they initially receptive to what you're trying to do for them, or you might have a few that really don't want to be there?
So we're not, I definitely have adolescents that their parents are, is that what you mean? Like the parents are saying, you've got to go see this therapist? Yeah. So when I first get somebody who comes into my practice, whether it be a young, 6, 7, 8, 9, or a teenager, I start with, why do you want to be here and what do you want to get out of this? And almost always, I have the ability to find something that we connect on. And so then when I'm working with them, I'll say, so what's making you unhappy? Now, occasionally, I will see an individual, an adolescent or a child, and they really they want to talk about things, but they don't really want their parents to know what they're talking about. So we talk about sort of a space where they can be free to share with me about what's going on with them, as long as there isn't anything that's creating danger for them, right? So they're not imminently suicidal, they're not imminently homicidal, they're not hurting themselves, or they're not being hurt. Then we start to talk about, if that's not going on, we're going to keep a space that they can share with me about their feelings and what's happening. Now, many of my clients want to have a parent there, and they want to be better understood by their parent, and the parent wants to really change their behavior so that it's really helping the child. But when that's not the case, because sometimes it's not the case, when that's not the case, then I'll work as much as I can to help the child, because they're really my patient, to help that person really come to terms with what they're looking for and help them to create more of a sense of loving themselves, a better understanding of the situation that they're in, and how they can create more empowerment and happiness. So almost always, I will have adolescents and children that do want to continue to see me because we create a safe space for them to get done what they want to get done. Now, I have had people who came in and they didn't want to see me, and I sometimes have tried different techniques to try to help them to continue to work with me, but ultimately, work isn't going to be done unless the individual there wants to do the work. And so, in those few instances, I haven't had success. They've either gone on and they've not continued to do therapy, or they've, kind of gone on their own. And sometimes what happens is those people come back later when they're older and talk a little bit about what it is that they wanted to do.
Okay, how you doing today, Ms. Beth? This is Romeo. I have a question for you. You write that it's important to look at your own personal development first. Why is that?
Okay, so one of the reasons that you're going to want to look at some of your own developmental issues is that when you're in a relationship and it doesn't seem to be working for you, so I'm talking about moving from me to we, when a person is not happy in their relationship, the first thing you want to find out is, what am I, what might be going on? Is this reenacting experiences that I've had in the past? Could this be bringing up issues that I need to resolve from my developmental skills? What is this about? And the reason I have people look at them, look at myself, look at themselves first, is that the only place you have power to change is within your own self. So you cannot change the other person. You can invite the other person to change, but you can only change yourself. So if we're unhappy in a relationship, we want to look at ourselves first and understand our developmental structure, what's going on with us, to see if maybe this isn't the best relationship, maybe we need to make some adjustments, maybe both people need to change. Does that make sense?
So with that being said, how would you put it as, how do people become locked into ineffective thought and communication patterns? And what would be the first step in making things a little better?
Okay, so how to get locked into ineffectual communication patterns and just, like what I call sometimes habit reaction patterns, is if indeed when we're young, something can go awry in our developmental structure. We talked about that. And what will happen is each individual person, because we're always trying to develop into our best selves, we might interpret that we're supposed to act a certain way. And maybe how we acted that very first time when something went wrong, it really worked well. So then we get a habit of acting that way every time something sounds the same or looks the same, except now we're acting not mindfully, we're reacting to past experiences. And so one of the things I say is that we need to kind of discern, is this familiar? Have you seen it before? Do you understand what's, is this related to some other person, or is it really related to the person that you're in relationship with now? So that's one thing. The second thing is ineffective communication patterns. If I get mad at you and I yell at you, and then you get mad at me and then you yell at me, we're now in a habit of yelling, but we're not necessarily listening to each other very well. And so the idea is, if I'm now mad and I'm yelling, and I'm not really hearing you very well, I need to stop. I need to kind of look at the situation from a different perspective. I might even say I have to do like a cognitive inversion. I have to really change my perspective so I can try to understand what's going on that you're upset about and try to communicate what I'm upset about in a different way. So those are the two things that sort of references in terms of changing our ineffective communication patterns or getting stuck in some sort of pattern of relating.
And with that being said, we have to take a quick commercial break. This is Miss J.
And Romeo.
And we're on the line with Dr. Beth Generous, the author of Me to We, the Art of Partnering with Mindfulness. And we will be back. So, Beth, we're going to place you on hold.
This station. Yeah, we
Well,
got
Miss J.
Here's how it works. Click on the Radio Loyalty banner right now and sign up. Then you keep on listening like you already do. But now you earn points. Those points add up, and you can trade them in for cool stuff in the Radio Loyalty store. Earn more points by sharing your station with friends on Facebook and Twitter, answering surveys, and by using the apps in the New Players App Store. Pretty simple. Free stuff just for doing what you already do. Radio Loyalty. Click the banner to join now.
Bye-bye.
So the the cop from Westchester County, the white guy that we were talking about the other day, he wrote me, he and his wife are a really good-looking couple, and they want a threesome with a brother, and they want to accomplish this by July. They wanted to know if I could help them, and, I don't know. I mean, I don't know anybody. He wants me to refer to him as Bryce, and he sent me pictures of him. Bryce, wow, look at you. And wow, look at your wife. Jeez Louise. I don't know why you guys are trying to moonlight on my show to have you help with a third person.
You already have a solution.
What's their solution? You? Oh, wow.
I've already been in contact with them.
Really?
Yeah. They're listening right now, yeah. It's already set up.
Wow.
Yeah. So thank you, Wendy, for setting me up with a couple.
You might want to clear up that little bruise on your bottom lip. Whatever, nigga. Welcome to the Bumpelstiltskin Club. I've been noticing it all day. Girls, have you noticed it?
I bit my lip yesterday.
Look at Art's lower lip.
I bit it yesterday.
He's got an open sore.
I bit it yesterday.
That's because a toe is a toe. Are you really going to hook up with him?
So, I'm a dog, and I'm kind of new to this family, but I've noticed a trend. My humans do this thing where they go around and get all my toys and hide them in this basket, but it's always the same basket, and it's always the same place, and then they act so surprised when I find them, but I'm like, hello, that's where you put it last time. Humans are the worst at hide and go seek.
A person is the best thing to happen to a shelter pet. Be that person. Adopt. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the ShelterPetProject.org.
Did you miss Talk Lately last night? Well, here's a snippet of what you missed. But Will Smith and Mark Anthony were hanging out this weekend at the Miami Dolphins game. I don't know if it was like they seemed like they were pretty happy and enjoying themselves. So that's just, maybe it was just to denounce the rumors that, Mark Anthony tapped that ass on TV for real. Because what if the sex scene was real? Was completely real.
It looked.
But you never know. Maybe Will was there watching that sex scene. No. And then they said that it was Will and Jade. Will and Mark that had the affair. But what if it was Will and Mark?
They said Will and Jada, but it was Will and Mark. Yeah. Mark and Jada, but it was Will and Mark. I said, wow. They're saying Will and Trey Songz is doing the damn thing now.
Phew.
She losing.
she is losing.
Oh,
But yeah, well, what if it was Will and Mark that was having the affair instead?
Ow. Ew. Ew.
Just ponder on that for a second. Because it wouldn't, now you would take a second look at the picture of them at the baseball game together, and Mark Anthony looking over his shoulder with his wandering eyes. Hey, Will. Hey, Big Willie. Hey, sit right here next to me. Let's watch the Dolphin games that I own part of. Don't get up too fast. You might make me see your Woody. Sit down slowly. I don't want to punch you with my skeletal bone. I'm not trying to lose you too soon like I lost Jenny from the block. She didn't have what you have, muscles. You're quite strong, Will. Ooh, your biceps. Oh, put your arms around me. Why don't you? Oh, the Dolphins are winning. Winning! Charlie Sheen, where are you? Oh no, they lost. Damn, that's actually you tonight, Will. Take me home. Not to your house, Jada's there. Maybe we can stop at the motel real quick. I don't have my chin guard. If you missed that, don't worry. We keep the laughs going right here on Baltimore Exposed Radio, Talk Lately Show. Weeknights at 8. Call in 855-TEL-TLS.
From north, east, south, and west, you're listening to BeExposedRadio.com.
Welcome back. This is your girl, Miss J, live at the Sugar Shack on BeExposedRadio.com every Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. This evening we have our special guest, Dr. Beth Generous, the author of Turning Me to We, The Art of Partnering with Mindfulness. Just a quick background with Beth. She holds 3 graduate degrees in business, counseling, and Oriental medicine. She spent over 20 years as a psychotherapist, over 14 years as a strategic management consultant, 8 years as an acupuncturist. So she has a vast majority of experience. And her vast and expressive education includes acupuncture, Oriental medicine, Jungian theory, cognitive behavioral therapy, Gestalt theory, Jeffrey Young, 5 element theories, energy rebalancing, and life coaching. That is a beautiful thing and an extensive background. And I'm so happy that she's here at the Sugar Shack with Miss J. So welcome back, Beth. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. I'm so happy to be here with you.
So before we left, we were discussing the personal development and also the thought and communication patterns of an individual. So if a person cannot be fixed, so to speak, like they're broken and they just cannot be fixed, do you still continue to try, or do you just say, you know what, I can't, I'm going to have to refer them to another person? Or are you just that diligent that you're just going to stick with it?
So as long as somebody wants to make changes, I continue to work with them, and I give them information in ways that they can build on each piece. Especially with adolescents, they give usually a couple of stories. One is, I don't want to change, I don't want to talk to you, and then they tell you what's really going on. So what I do is I try to hang with them and really try to get in there about something that matters to them, and then I really am able to make those connections. So then over time, we're able to make some changes. It's hard to change. It really is. It's hard to do the work that's required. It's uncomfortable. It's challenging. We lose out on things that we think matter to us. So I like to really stick with people as long as they're willing to come in and keep working on it. And when they make mistakes, I point out, oh, hey, so remember we talked about, oh, yeah, well, I'll work on that. So that's what I do. If somebody doesn't want to see me, and they really are very happy with where they are, well, then there's no reason for them to come back in, right? So.
So with that, do you recommend bringing awareness of charges that arise within certain words or phrases? And why is this important? Because I know in therapy or whatever the session is, you have to have certain words that the person can identify with. So what do you think, or what can you tell us are certain words or phrases that you find beneficial in your sessions?
Okay, so that's really great. First of all, there are words that have charges, and they're not always the same words. I mean, we can imagine some words that everybody might have a charge to. But sometimes there are words that don't feel like a charge to me. I might use it, but then to the person I'm speaking to, they feel a charge around it. And this can happen in session, of course, as a therapist, but it can also happen in relationships. And how I always know and how I encourage people to think about this is, if all of a sudden somebody's really mad at you and they're acting really defensive toward you, and you've been having a nice interaction and all of a sudden they're super defensive and they really sound mad and maybe even their voice raises or they say something really short-tempered, then you know something had a charge. And then what I say and what I encourage people to say is, what did you just hear me say? Because usually they heard something different than whatever you meant to say. And that's why I encourage people to pay attention to those things. Defensiveness is really a sign that somewhere something's gone awry. When somebody starts to act really defensive with you, either they think you're doing something or you have inadvertently done something that's hurting them.
So what about a person that is just, okay, so you're in a relationship and they are the ones who did the wrong, but because we're going to piggyback off what you just said. So they were the one who did the wrong, but then they're disgruntled towards you at everything. And instead of looking at themselves and the nastiness or the disposition that they're in, they refuse to look at themselves, but they always want to point the finger and make it about the opposite person. What do you say about that?
Such a great point. Such a great point, right? So what you would do, if you're the person, your partner did something, went outside the relationship, lied to you, something that where they had taken the action which was hurtful to the relationship. And then, you're just sitting there and they're really mean to you. They say short-tempered things to you, they're defensive, they're attacking. So one thing you can say is, all right, what are you attacking me for? You would say that. And you would talk about how you can hear that they're mad, and you don't know what they're mad at you for. You aren't aware of having done something. What is it that you've done? So then they would have to answer that question. It might be something really benign. Well, you didn't look happy just then when you looked at me, or whatever it is. You can, you can use some of your intuition, some of your insight, and say, I think you're being mean to me because you're mad that you did something wrong, and you want to make me just as bad as you. I mean, you can make that kind of a statement. You'd have to be working with somebody who is willing to take ownership of their bad behavior, right? Because it would require a fairly mature person to be able to say back to that statement, you're right, I really am unhappy with myself that I did this, right? If you have somebody who's not willing to take ownership of their negative behavior in your relationship with them, you can't stay in relationship with them because you can't reset. You can't reset the relationship and go back and restart it and negotiate what to do next unless they own what they've done wrong and have an idea about how they did it and have an idea about what they're going to do next time when they're faced with the same situation. So in a lot of ways, it's like parenting, right? What do you say to your child? You say, that's the mistake, and the child says, okay, and you say, okay, how did you make that mistake, and what are you going to do next time when you're faced with the same situation? So in relationship, we have to do the same thing. We have to think of the shifting that's happening as an opportunity for learning. I need to learn about you, you need to learn about me, we need to learn about each other. And if that individual is not willing to learn about himself or herself about their bad behavior, then they're not willing to work with you in the relationship. Ultimately, you're going to end up not being able to work it out because they aren't taking their responsibility for their bad actions.
And I'm sure our listeners could definitely identify because we all know someone in a situation or they've been in a situation. We'd like to hear from you, 1-855-835-5857, extension 1, or you can text us at 443-642-9403. So with that bad behavior and someone not taking ownership in a relationship, but they feel as though, okay, I know I did something wrong. I don't want to own up to it, but I want to constantly point the finger and constantly point the finger and constantly point the finger. So the person is getting the blunt of this, and they're like, okay, I don't want to give up. I still see the potential, but you have to take ownership in what you're doing and what you have done in your actions. So now we're going to go to therapy. So now you have to pursue the person to go to therapy to talk about what they've done to bring them into therapy, but then they're pushing back, oh, I don't want to go, I don't need help. So when the person who says they don't need help, but technically they really do, how do you deal with a person like that?
Well, one of my kind of funny things that I think about is, that a bad attitude is kind of like a flat tire. Until you change it, you're not going anywhere, right? And so if a person is saying, I don't have a problem, I'm not going to go talk to some stranger about our situation, that you, the person, whoever you is, like let's say me, I would have to set some sort of boundary or limit. I'd have to say, well, this hurt me. And you may have some good reason for having done this mean thing, but you won't even talk about the fact that you've done the mean thing and it did hurt me. So now we're at this very difficult space. We can't move on in our relationship because you won't own up to how you got to doing this. I don't want you to do it again. You're saying you don't even want to do it again, but you don't know how you got yourself to do it in the first place. So we need either help or we need to talk to each other about it without negativity and nastiness, right? Either we bring in a third party who can help us talk about it without negativity and nastiness, or we have to do it that way. Those are our only options. So the relationship has been too harmed because we can't be stuck with a flat tire or our relationship's not going to go anywhere. We need to be able to change it, right? We have to get out a new tire. We have to say, basically, this didn't work, what I did here, and I'm not going to do it anymore. But it's not sufficient to just say that. We also have to say, well, here's why I did it, what was going on in my head or the situation, and here's what I'm going to do the next time I'm faced with that situation. Even if we were talking about an affair, even affairs can fall into that situation. Some people, it's a perfect storm of bad things that happen, and all of a sudden they have an affair. So that individual who has the affair has to look at what's missing inside of them that they aren't holding to their commitment to their partner. And, they have to increase their empathy. How might this feel to me if my partner did it to me, right? And they have to also figure out how do they not put themselves in situations where they're going to have an affair. There can also be an answer of all bets are off. Maybe you're just so unhappy in the relationship, then you should end up not being in it, which is another option, which is I call the win-win or you just don't continue, right?
Mm-hmm. But the person who is doing the the unnecessary infidelity in the relationship, and they take it to the next level. Because earlier, before you came in, we were talking about bad boys and why women like bad boys. And so I had came up with a couple of different reasons, and of course, more than likely they're true. It depends on, and I didn't leave out, just for women, because men have their liking for bad boys also. So more than less is cockiness, and you're not going to change me. So when you have someone in that mindset, I'm going to do what I want and you're not going to change me, that's a challenge, because they like to see like the mouse with the cheese, the rat race, so to speak, of running around trying to get the cheese and knowing that you're not going to get it. But I enjoy watching you doing this because I'm getting some type of enjoyment out of it. It's hilarious to me, but the person that's doing the running, they're trying to catch up to something that they're never going to get. Am I right?
Right. And part of that is this idea that you want to have a little bit of excitement and challenge and interest in our relationships. You want to keep them alive. And that's kind of that attraction to the bad boy, that very young behavior, cockiness that you're talking about. But part of what women are looking for is that individual will tame, in a sense, themselves for you. And so the woman will stay in that. Let's say if it's a man and a woman together, the woman would stay in that because she wants to be she would want that experience of being so lovely that person who's super cocky and won't be tamed will be tamed for her, right? So that's part of what she would stay in. And then he likes, as you said, sort of that chase and all of that. So part of what you want to do is you want to make sure there's balance, right? And that there's not harm. It's one thing if somebody's sort of cocky and, you can't make me do it, but on the other hand, they maintain some level of commitment and structure in the relationship. Because ultimately you want a relationship that's going to be long-standing. So there's a difference between a short-term relationship and a long-term relationship, right?
Exactly.
So that excitement is part of it.
The excitement of trying to get something that in reality you're not going to get because other people have tried.
Right, or you might be so special that you're the one who's going to get it, right? That's what the woman is going for.
Exactly.
Does that make sense?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And in hindsight...
And so occasionally that happens.
Yeah.
Go ahead, in hindsight.
In hindsight, it has happened, but normally they put themselves first. It's about them, and normally they're loose cannon, arrogant, once again, cocky. And cocky and arrogant is more the top two of the person that's a bad boy, or the person that has the problem with either infidelity or communication. They can dish stuff out, but they can't take it.
Exactly. And it's about a power structure. And, one of the things that, in the book I talk about that those insecurity structures, the MAP. And one of the things that I've noticed is that there are two insecurity structures that are playing against each other in these kinds of relationships where, one person is really cocky and the other person is really trying to change that person, even though they know it's not going to happen. And they're really attracted to that, but then they really want more normalcy, right? And the way that each person, if they were interested in making a change, they could learn about themselves and how to negotiate a space that's much more, it's still going to be risky and fun and interesting, but not hurtful.
So when someone is...
having a... Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. You can go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, having an affair, unless you're in a relationship with somebody that you want to have multiple relationships and you're agreeing to be in an open relationship, having an affair is a way of really hurting the relationship. And so when that happens, it's already endangering the situation. So I think cockiness up to having sex with somebody else can be interesting and part of an ongoing relationship that's very long-standing. But if both people aren't interested in having an open relationship where they have sex outside the relationship with other people, then it could be very harmful.
Mm-hmm. Very interesting, because, like I said, we all have either been in a relationship, male or female. They've had a bad boy and they've come through their lives once or twice, hopefully once. And you learn from that lesson. So in what ways can we begin shifting our perspective to enhance communications in a relationship? What do you think are the top rules in doing this?
So, one of the things that we just have been talking about is really that. We have to say, is this what we want? People may make a choice. I want to be with that person. He's a bad boy. I want to make it happen. It's good. But I also know that's not my long-standing relationship. I just want to be with that person, and I know it's not going to continue because he's going to be with somebody else. That's how it is. But I like this experience. I like him. It's fine. And let's say you're both entering it with this sort of short-term concept. Well, then you're in the same perspective. But if one person is entering it with the perspective, I want this to be a long-standing relationship, and I like that you're kind of cocky, and I like that you're sort of risk-taking, but I don't want to have an affair, I don't want you to have an affair, then they have to be on the same page, right? And so changing the perspective is really looking at things from both persons' point of view. It's like paradigm shifting. You have to know what the other person's paradigm is, and you have to know what your own paradigm is. And sometimes in relationships, we think we've come to some agreement about what the relationship is about, but we haven't. We are misinterpreting each other, or we're just seeing it from our own perspective. And so then that's when I find I'll have couples in my practice, and one will be saying, this is what you did, and then the other one will be saying, no, this is what you did, and each one is right and each one is wrong, because from their own perspective, they're both, each person is right, but from the other perspective, they're wrong. And that's when I use those. I know you looked at the book. There's this picture of a duck and a bunny, and when you look at it from one perspective, it looks like a duck, and when you look at it from another perspective, it looks like a bunny. Well, that's that example. And so if I keep yelling, duck, 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 and the other person keeps yelling, bunny, 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 well, we're not seeing it from each other's perspective. We're only seeing our own perspective. Each of us thinks we're right, but we're both only right from our own perspective. We're wrong from the other perspective. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense. And the thing is...
So that's why it's so important.
And especially with the analogy with the bunnies. It definitely makes sense.
Yeah.
So, what is meant by interdependent relations, and how does it shift into interactions?
Oh, right. So when you when you're in a me-style relationship, you're codependent. A person will be like me, and they adjust themselves. They are me, in that they feel like they want things their own way. But then the other person in that relationship is always sort of changing themselves to be how they perceive their partner wants them to be. So they're not really themselves. So you have two, I kind of call it codependent, two halves coming together to make one whole. So they're only one person. And in those situations, the individuals are not interdependent, and they're not interacting. They're just they can't say no, right? And so it's very codependent. The next one is when people are very independent. They're very competitive. Well, this is what I want. I wanted that. I wanted to do it. I did it. I don't see why you're mad. That's just the way it is. They have very strong boundaries, very rigid, and they don't have the ability to say yes. They can't say, oh, I can help you out with that. Well, that's your problem. I'm not going to help you. That's kind of the independent style. Whereas the interdependent style is much more interactive. There are good boundaries, but you can see the other person's point of view. They're able to use their empathy and see another person's perspective. And they can move in between saying yes and no in terms of setting limits, but also being there for their partner. So that's what that interdependent we style is so important.
And on that note, we're going to take a break and come back with our guest, Miss Beth Generous. This is Miss J, live at the Sugar Shack on BeExposedRadio.com. And we're going to place you on hold, Miss Beth.
Did you know that birthday parties help build confidence in kids?
Yeah. Did you know that giving kids less sugar before bedtime helps them sleep better?
Oh, totally. Did you know that friendly kids have more friends?
Everybody knows that.
Hey, guys, did you know that most people think they're using the right car seat for their kid, but they're not?
I didn't know that.
Parents who really know it all know for sure that their child is in the right car seat at the right age and size. Visit safercar.gov/the-right-seat to make sure your child is protected. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Hemorrhoids, you cannot have a colonic.
Well, I had hemorrhoids when I had the baby. All that pushing, he blew my behind out.
Okay.
But they've been cured. You know, after I sat in that little pool of whatever the mess that you do at the hospital, and then they give you a little, prescription afterwards, and so it's been cured up. But, yeah.
Did you have laser? Did you have laser surgery to remove them?
No, it wasn't like that, Carl.
Okay.
How you doing?
Okay,
Mine back was blown out from having a baby.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I'm just making a joke.
Yeah, but I just wanted you to pass that on because, I think it's a good thing about colonics.
Yes.
But I was so disappointed when he said, no, because you got hemorrhoids, you cannot get a colonic.
Well, sweetheart, why don't you get your hemorrhoids fixed? Is it impossible because of homosexual sex?
No, because you know why? Because that doctor with the Z that you went to?
Yeah.
That's the one I went to, and they totally screwed it up.
Dr. Zismore?
Don't say his name.
Why? No,
because I don't want him to get any business.
First of all, he's a dermatologist. So I don't even know why you went to him for a colonic. Look, listen to me.
No. I went to him for the hemorrhoid.
No. Go to a general practitioner. Why are you going to a dermatologist to fix the damn hemorrhoid? Carl, please.
Okay.
Go get your hemorrhoids fixed. You can get hemorrhoids fixed now. Am I detecting that you're a gay male?
Yes.
So,
how you doing?
How you doing? The thing is that you might want to get your hemorrhoids fixed and stick with being a topper more than a bottomer so that they can really heal.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, because I'm tired of buying Preparation H. I'm tired of it.
Well, the thing is that you got to lay off taking it and just start giving it more.
Oh, see, but I'm a bottom girl.
Yeah, I understand that. Then your behind is going to forever stay blown out, and you're going to forever stay, bloody in the sheets. Shout out to Tigger. You understand what I'm saying?
Girl,
all right, I know this conversation has gone left, hasn't it?
I know. Okay, hey, good. About your CD is the bomb.
Thank you, Carl.
All right, bye.
Bye-bye. Take care. Oh, Big Tigger, I'm sorry, but his two-way, he's probably already changed his numbers. How you doing? Au revoir.
Today in school, I learned a lot. In chemistry, I learned that no one likes me. In biology, I learned that I'm fat and stupid. In English, I learned that I'm disgusting. And in gym, I learned that I'm pathetic and a joke. The only thing I didn't learn in school today is why no one ever helps.
Kids witness bullying every day. They want to help, but they don't know how. Teach them how to stop bullying and be more than a bystander at stopbullying.gov. A message from the Ad Council.
Want to stay up on the latest entertainment news and gossip? Join us right here. Want to stay up on the latest news and gossip? What? Want to stay up on your latest entertainment news and gossip Join us weeknights at 8 right here on Baltimore Exposed Radio for the Talk Lately show. Look, I'm getting ready to laugh again. Call us, 855-TELL-TLS.
From north, east, south, and west, you're listening to BeExposedRadio.com. How you doing?
Okay. Vaughn's coming up at 7. Did you guys hear about the sex and video in Paramus prostitution bust?
What's going on with that?
Well, Paramus, New Jersey police said customers of an alleged house of prostitution were secretly videotaped. Art.
Man.
The tape was found in a raid on a rented home on Fairview Avenue after a 3-month investigation surveillance. 2 people were charged with maintaining a house of prostitution. 2 women were charged with being prostitutes. 8 men were arrested for soliciting sex. You got to watch the surveillance cameras, Little Kim. Because the surveillance cameras were outside of Hot 97.
And they just had put them things up about a month before that.
They didn't have surveillance cameras there all that time?
There was an incident a few months before that, and they just had put them outside and everything. About a month and a half before that. Yeah.
I remember I got off the air one day and them the total bitches were downstairs waiting, and everybody upstairs at the radio station was looking down, egging it on, waiting for something to go down. I wasn't yet married. My knight in shining armor screeched up in his car just out of nowhere. I didn't even know what was about to happen. Skell hiding like a girl. Thanks, Skell. I'm standing in the door like, what? And I'm literally about to go through. Now, I'm not like, what, let's fight, because I'm not one of those type of broads. And plus, there was 3 of them. Out of nowhere. This is like I think we were first starting to date. We were brand new into it. You know, there were little signs. You know how little signs kick in that certain people are meant to be in your life and stuff. There were a lot of those that happened before, we actually sealed the deal. And that was like one of them. Like, God only knows what would have happened if I got out on the sidewalk and everything like that. Papers going flying,
Welcome back. This is your girl, Miss J, live at the Sugar Shack on BeExposedRadio.com, Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. I have on the line with us our special guest, Miss Beth Generous, author of Me to We, The Art of Partnering with Mindfulness. Welcome back, Beth, and thank you for joining us again.
Thanks. I'm glad to be here.
So before we went to our last commercial break, the conversation has been very insightful. The topics of different ages and the ranges and what people experience in their lives and what they come to you for assistance. So with that being said, what is meant by the interdependent relations, and how does it shift into interactions? So with the volume of people that you see and the different diagnosis that you give them coming to see you, in your practice, we already established that some people are just broken and they can't be fixed. And then you have people that want to be manipulative. So do you see past the manipulative? You can honestly, when they walk in, you know that they're full of crap and it's just not going to work. Either them seeing you or the relationship that they're in.
Yeah, so sometimes it does happen. I mean, occasionally I'll have somebody and, I'll discuss with them about the whole idea that you have to really take ownership about how things are in the relationship, and everybody has a part in how things aren't working, and we need to each work on ourselves in the relationship. I have some people who really are trying to make everything about the other person, and I will usually gently kind of remind them that it's all, everybody has a play. I have been known to, it doesn't happen that often because I generally can find something that somebody is willing to own up to and make a change, or they're not going to usually come in and pay the money to be in therapy. But occasionally I will have to say to somebody, you're really wasting your money. You're not willing to do the work. You're not willing to make the changes. You continue to do what you've been doing all along. And it doesn't seem like it's a good value for you to continue to come to therapy because you're not utilizing the skills that you're being taught or that, you're being invited to use. And so I have been known to say, okay, this isn't going to work. Now, usually, if I'm going to say to someone this relationship probably isn't going to work, and you guys maybe need to looking at divorce or breaking up rather than staying together, I will say that with those people in the room so that we can talk about what the goals are. I might say, Jane, you really want to have a really powerful relationship that's really committed, and John, you seem to really want to kind of be in that to some degree, but you won't make a full commitment. And Jane, do you really want a full commitment? Yes. And John, do you think you can do it? No. Well, it sounds like you guys know what you need to do next, right? So usually I'm not going to make a judgment about somebody and tell the other person. I'm going to have them discover it together, because occasionally what will happen is when people get right up at the end, they make the change. And so I want to give people a chance to do that. One of the things I've noticed is that sort of there's a whole group of people that they use words to tell you what's going on. I'm really having a hard time. This relationship really isn't working. I'm really trying to communicate. This relationship isn't working. And oftentimes I find with men don't pay attention to words. They pay attention to action. And so the man maybe keeps hearing, oh, this isn't working, but they don't do anything differently until the person says, okay, I'm out. And then as soon as the person leaves, then the man will be like, oh, can we go to therapy, or what do you want to do, or what's really wrong? Now, that first person's told all of the reasons that there's a problem, and they've finally worked it out, and they've gotten ready to go. And people who communicate by language, by the time they take an action, it's almost irrevocable. It's almost unchangeable. And unfortunately, people that don't pay attention until there's an action taken, they lose that relationship. Mm-hmm. So it's really important to know if you listen to words or actions, or if your partner listens to words or actions. Because you might be wiser to take an action earlier if your partner only listens to actions. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. And I like that with what are the core security drives and how do they affect our relationships? Because going into a relationship, you don't know what you're going to get. You don't know that person. You don't know. I always say you always meet someone's representation first before meeting the real person. So they're going to let you meet who you think you're going to meet. But it takes about 6 months. And I always say it's 6 months for the honeymoon period to run off, to go into where the relationship is actually supposed to be. Because you want to put in a good impression in the relationship. So you don't want them to immediately see that you're disgruntled, that you're nasty, that you don't like cleaning, that you're lazy, that you're hard to get along with, that you're moody. And you don't want them to see that right away. So it takes about 6 months, and correct me if I'm wrong, for the real you to come to light.
Well, I think you're really onto something with the 6 months. One of the things that we say in psych is that if a person has a personality disorder, which is a psychiatric diagnosis, that will show up for 6 months. So there's sort of a honeymoon period. People are really great, everything's nice. And then all of a sudden, after 6 months, it's a disaster. And so that really does, you're really onto something when you say 6 months. There are some people where their change in behavior doesn't happen until there's a solidified commitment. So marriage, sometimes it's 4 or 5 years, and all of a sudden they'll say to you, so they finally get comfortable, And then all of a sudden they'll say, yeah, well, I don't like doing any of that. I've never liked it. And you're like, well, we've been doing this whole time. And so the first time that can happen is at 6 months, but it can actually happen when a level of security or commitment comes into play. And then the person changes. Oh, well, I've got you now, so now I'm going to show you what I'm really like.
Mm-hmm.
So when that happens is usually when people end up in therapy, right? And so I'll talk to them about how, what did you like about the person? And if it's a person who hid who they were because they think it's unlikable, then I'll talk about them kind of owning it and finding out if the other person's willing to take it, right? And if it's a person who didn't really realize they were faking out the first person. You know what I mean? Some people actually, they're chameleons. They just become whoever they think somebody wants them to be. But then once they're comfortable, they kind of revert back to who they really are. Now, those individuals have to learn how to be more open at the front end so they can have healthier, more positive relationships, right?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And a positive relationship is basically the forefront for more to come in a relationship, because if the honesty is there, the lies shouldn't be presented, because if you can be honest from the door, the relationship should be okay. If you explain to each other the do's and the don'ts and what I like and what I don't like, at least you're being upfront and the other person can respect you. But if you're already going into the relationship with lies and deceit, do you think from your standpoint it's going to work out?
Well, it could work out, but it's going to have a much harder road. I think that one of the mistakes that I find this to be true a lot is that people will present themselves in a way that they perceive to be like what the other person wants them to be. And they do it because they want a relationship. Well, I want a relationship, so I got to be this way because that's what the person wants. And what I always say to them is, you're better to just be yourself. Because if you get someone being someone else, then you're not really in the relationship. You're going to feel alone in the relationship. You're going to feel unloved in the relationship. You're going to feel unseen in the relationship. So you're better off just being yourself. Then, even if you're a difficult, complicated, complex person, the person who finally says, hey, I like you, they're going to really like you. So you'll really be seen, you'll really be loved. So yeah, you might not get 50 relationships, but we really only need one love relationship, right? I mean, that's the hope, is that we can find one that's going to be powerful and empowering. And so you're absolutely right. If you start out lying, either pretending you're not something because you think it's not a good thing to be, or pretending you're something else because you think the person wants you to be that, ultimately, you're going to feel bad, and so will the other person. So it doesn't work very well.
And it's not going to work.
Because it might work if they get far enough into the relationship, let's say they have children, or some way that they're committed, then they would go to therapy, and maybe they could work out finding a middle space. But it's just the wrong way to do it. It's just really problematic.
So let's say a person has cheated on their mate, and they cheated with someone else, but the person didn't realize that that person was in a committed relationship. So the web of lies has started. So the triangle or the square or the octagon has taken place, and the person that's in the center is still lying. But now the truth has come out, and he wants to do damage control, but he doesn't want to do damage control to one. Well, to one, but not the other. Do you really think that relationship is going to work out?
Yeah, because it's really about dishonesty. You can't. Anytime there's a secret in a relationship, it's going to erode the relationship from the inside out. Secrets erode relationships. You want to think of them sort of like acidic in nature. They eat away at the center of the relationship and they erode it. Now, there's a difference between secrets and privacy, right? So a private thing is something about myself that you would not expect to know about me, and it's not going to change who I am to you. That's privacy. A secret is, I know that you would like to know this, I'm choosing not to tell you. So that's like a lie of omission, right? Mm-hmm. Or something I know I've done that you would not want me to do, and it would hurt us. Secrets erode relationships. They erode family systems. They erode love relationships. They erode partnerships of any kind. But privacy is actually a fine thing. It's fine for people to have private relationships, as long as the privacy is about maintaining a sense of self and not crossing a line that should be part of the relationship. Like an affair. You can't call that a privacy issue. That's a secret issue.
Mm-hmm. I agree. And so if a person comes into therapy willingly, but they still have a little resistance with it, so now they're the center, their partner is their partner, now another person is brought into it, and probably another person is brought into the situation. So have you canceled more than 2 people that's in a relationship?
Have I counseled more than 2 people in the relationship? So let's say there's 2 people and then they've brought a third person in. Mm-hmm. The only time that I've done that is if all 3 people intended to be in that kind of relationship. Mm-hmm. Do you understand what I mean? Mm-hmm. So if a person says, I'm in an open relationship, my partner wants me to be in an open relationship, and we're having some trouble with our open relationship, and everybody who's in the relationship wants to be in this kind of open relationship, yes, I've worked with individuals like that. And part of why that can work is that everybody is owning what kind of relationship they want to have. Now, what can happen is people say, no, I don't actually want to be in an open relationship. I agreed to do that because I didn't want to lose you. So that's a different situation, right? Mm-hmm. That person's really feeling hurt by the open relationship. And so then there's going to have to be a renegotiation of what kind of relationship they can be in. Either they need to not stay in that relationship, or the person who thought they don't want to be an open, can tell the other person, and then that open relationship can stop happening. But usually when you keep bringing more people in, that would drag me into the secret, right? And if I'm dragged into the secret, then now I'm as harmful to the relationship as any other secret, right? Mm-hmm. So I don't think it's helpful for the therapist, for me as a therapist, to be helping another person with their secret if I'm working with the couple.
Duly noted on that. Because that old saying, the way that you get someone is the way that you lose them.
Yeah.
So if you know that a person is in a relationship and they intentionally go after that person, knowing that they're already with someone, the same thing is going to happen to you.
That's right.
And do you find at this day and age that people don't believe that thing called karma?
I believe in karma. Do you believe in karma?
I do.
Yeah.
I highly believe in karma.
I think that energy goes around even in this, don't even think about last life. I think even in this life, energy goes around. And if you are not acting in an honest, open way, ultimately you will get injured yourself. Even if you think you're ahead of the game, it ultimately will come back to you, because that's just how energy is, right?
Mm-hmm. I totally agree. But I guess when the person is doing whatever it is that's being hurtful to the triangle or the square or the octagon or whatever, how many people, they don't see it like that, and they might feel as though they're ineffective and it's not going to come back to them. But the thing about karma, it comes back, but not might not necessarily come back to you. It could come to someone close to you.
Mm-hmm. It's true. That's true.
And with that, how will integrating mind, body, and spirit enrich our lives?
So, I feel that what you were just talking about has to do with the spirituality of things. And in Chinese medicine, because I have a Chinese medicine degree also, right? And so I've studied Chinese philosophy, this whole Taoist philosophy for sort of a long time. And one of the things that they say in Chinese medicine is that qi follows shen and blood follows qi. And what they mean by that is that if you have a spiritual injury, if you do something where you're not in alignment with your true spirit, your heart, then you might start to not think clearly, and then you might actually end up creating some level of disease in your body. Well, it's the same thing in relationships. When people are not acting from a heart-led, heart-centered place in how they're acting in their relationship, they might not be honest in their words, they might not be honest in their actions, and ultimately they're going to have trouble in their relationship. So we want to integrate spirit, mind, and body, and there are ways for us to know that we're acting out of our, not in our center, or we're not in our spiritual space by listening to our intuition, listening to our five senses, by really trusting ourselves. And if we live in the center of ourselves, and we live from the spiritual place in our heart center, then only good things are going to come our way. And that means that if the relationship is breaking apart, it probably might not be a good relationship for you. Sometimes you have to trust that things break apart because something better is coming.
And that's really powerful to say. And with your experience of being a therapist, and you've seen, I'm sure, so many different scenarios that you probably scratch your head after the session is over, like, wow, I can't believe I got through to the end of that session. Is it being a therapist and listening to other people's problems, you put yours on a back burner, I'm sure. Do you always, or have you thought of, somebody is worse off than me with what you've seen? Can you honestly say that?
That somebody is worse off than me?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, well, sure. But I also, because of my spiritual connection, and because of how much I really believe in this idea of spirit, mind, and body, and that we are really spirit humans, we're really energy beings, I feel like everyone at any time has a chance to be the best person they can be. I learn a lot from the people I work with because I'm open-minded in terms of how I'm going to assist them in following their own course to get to a place where they're happy. And I learn a lot about how people can forgive each other. I learn a lot about how people can really be understanding. I also, unfortunately, learn a lot about how awful and horrible people can be to each other. And that is probably the most painful part of being a therapist, is that I walk around with all of the very tragic, horrible things that humans do to each other in my head and in my heart and in my being. And it's unpleasant. It's hard to be the container for other people's misery. And I think that's one of the reasons I wrote the book, is that I wanted to really assist people in up-leveling their consciousness and seeing each other in a more loving way and seeing themselves in a more loving way, so that we could all treat each other better and we could all kind of become better beings toward each other and in the world. Because it's really sad. It's really hard to know what we can do to each other. Humans are not that nice to each other. It's astounding.
And that's very interesting. People are not nice to each other. And that's the sad part. Well, I have thoroughly enjoyed this conversation and interview with you today at the Sugar Shack. And as I said, I extended the invitation for you to come back anytime. How can our listeners find you?
So, you can find me at my website, BethGineris.com, BethGineris.com. You can also find the books on that site or at Amazon.com. And you can, I write a blog that's really fun to follow, and that's at Instinctive, INSTINCTIVE, healthmedicine.com. And I'm on Facebook, and I'm on Twitter, BGineris, and I'm going to be back here. I'm looking forward to being here again. I just think you're great.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Well, this is your girl, Miss J, signing off at the Sugar Shack on Be Exposed Radio. You can find me on Facebook at Miss J40. You can find me on Twitter at Miss J40. You can find me on Instagram also. I am all over the place. And this is our time out. You have a great weekend, and we will see you on Monday. Bye-bye. Beth, thank you so much.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I'm so glad I got to talk with you. Let me know when you want me on again. Do you want to do it through me or through Antonia?
Let me get off the air.
Okay.
And I'm kind of new to this family, but I've noticed a trend. My humans do this thing where they go around and get all my toys and hide them in this basket, but it's always the same basket, and it's always the same place, and then they act so surprised when I find them, but I'm like, hello, that's where you put it last time. Humans are the worst at hide and go seek.
A person is the best thing to happen to a shelter pet. Be that person. Adopt. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the ShelterPetProject.org.
Did you miss Talk Lately last night? Well, here's a snippet of what you missed. The phone. I'm going to stick with this now. The phone.
The phone, yeah.
Because people play with my emotions when they try to, you know what? He ruined it for everybody that wanted to ever come into this studio and sit down before me and chit-chat. And like I said yesterday, I would give him the opportunity to redeem himself, but it's going to be on here and no other way. You can't come in here no more.
Right.
Excuse my French, but fuck his reality show. That's how I feel. He ain't gonna do too good in the ratings anyway. Oh, did I say that? You know, keeping up with the cards.